Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now October 11th of 2022, and not only are we getting closer to other TV shows out there like Tales of the Jedi, The Bad Batch Season 2, and a whole lot more on the horizon like Mando 3 and 4, Ahsoka, you name it. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about this new universe that Jon and Dave are really pouring their dedicated lives into to really turn things around for the better is that it's not only going to bring back the highlights of Star Wars Legends as we have already discussed multiple times. You know, things like, of course, Dark Empire, Shadows of the Empire, the Thrawn trilogy, and a whole lot more that's going to be implemented into these new Star Wars shows, movies, just projects in general, the books, etc. There's a lot of things happening and brewing that's going to turn things around for the franchise starting in 2023, or technically October 26th, where Tales of the Jedi debuts. That's going to be a big project that was led by both Favreau and Filoni on a creative scale. Now, with that being said too, there's a lot of things going on with the Disney executives and what they have planned for both Jon and Dave, and exactly how it involves us, the fans, and how it also involves them as creators, and what it means for the Star Wars brand, and just the franchise in general, right? A lot of fans have been very worried about the future of Star Wars, where it's going, and Jon and Dave are trying to reassure fans that things are going to be just fine, things are going to be quite amazing and better than you would even expect. So let's dive right into it. Now, with both Favreau and Filoni now focused on their new Star Wars projects like the 4th season of Mando and Ahsoka, they are also focused on other projects that will be announced next year for the Star Wars fandom. However, most recently something major happened behind the scenes over at Lucasfilm. It's described, however, that this new development involves a brand new promotion provided to not just Jon Favreau, but also now to Dave Filoni, who got new promotions over at Lucasfilm. Now, this promotion allows both Dave and Jon equally holding the same amount of creative power over the Star Wars universe, and even now 75% of the financial end of the upcoming Star Wars projects, which actually dwindles Kathleen Kennedy's control to 25% on choices for the budgeting of the financing of these shows for Disney+. Now, with these promotions given to both Jon and Dave, they are actively getting ready to apply these advantages to their upcoming projects that we'll begin working on in 2023. Let me pause here quickly for a second. Now, the Disney executives' major goal is to boost the ratings for the Star Wars shows on Disney+. Not saying that ratings for shows out there like Andor have been bad, or The Mandalorian, or anything around those lines. It's just that they're not hitting the numbers that they would like to hit, and that's what they want to improve on. So that's what's going on behind the scenes, is that they are experiencing lower numbers than they would have actually expected or would have wanted, but not that it's necessarily bad, if that makes sense. So that brings us to the next scenario here. Exactly how are they going to be able to do that? Well, that all comes down to making quality shows over, of course, quantity, right? So that's exactly what they're doing. They're going to make sure that they are going to focus more on quality-driven shows instead of just throwing in all these random shows that make no sense, and they're really making sure that they're not going to make mistakes in between. Now, that's not to say that Jon and Dave are not going to put out a lot of shows. They are, but they're all going to be quality-driven. They're all going to be very carefully supervised, carefully created, and catered to the actual fans. They want to make sure that they're not going to have one mishap again, like with what happened with Boba Fett or even Kenobi. And if you guys like those shows, listen, hey, fun, we all have our opinions, but I just feel that those two shows, along with many others around the globe, that felt that those two shows were heavily flawed. And we went over exactly why they were heavily flawed, is because they were basically iterations of the movie versions that Kathleen Kennedy had a contract with. Both Kenobi and, of course, Boba Fett were supposed to be solo movies in the beginning. So moving on to the next thing here, what's even all the more exciting about this is that, well, this is something that Disney CEO Bob Chapek recently authorized for Favreau and Filoni to take over many aspects of Lucasfilm. John and Dave will also hold power over who gets hired for many of the upcoming Star Wars projects. This includes the cast, the crew, and even some creators coming on board of the new series in development and such. Additionally, Favreau and Filoni are also set to make these choices as soon as December into January of 23, when everything goes into full effect. Both John and Dave are said to be extremely overjoyed with these promotions and are using them to their own advantage to turn things around for the franchise and for the better. Now, before I get to the next very important thing about this is that you guys may have missed this, but John and Dave left the Acolyte series, and they're doing that to focus more on all of the other shows that just fans love and adore so much. Things like The Mandalorian or the Ahsoka spin-off that's about to come out next year. You know, this is something that fans actually enjoy because it's the mythology of Star Wars. It has that mythology-driven, tone to it all. And not just the tone, but the visuals, the lore, and just everything inserted into it. So, the thing about Favreau and Filoni here is that they left the Acolyte because of a lot of drama that was happening, a lot of issues with the series. It was taking too much of their time, it was too stressful. They did what they could, and ever since they left, Kathleen Kennedy is pretty much undoing a lot, but not all, of what they actually fixed for the Acolyte series, which is pretty sad. I mean, it really makes you wonder how much of Favreau and Filoni's work will remain in the Acolyte series by the time it begins filming in December or January. And the last thing, of course, this is a real interesting development that I think a lot of fans should really be aware of, is the fact that John and Dave are making sure that every single Star Wars show moving ahead from this point in time, anything beyond Mando 3, is going to be very cinematic, very movie-like-esque. What do I mean by that? Well, when you go ahead and look at Andor by Tony Gilroy, and I know that a lot of fans have criticism over that show, about it being very slow and very flat. A lot of fans are talking about it in that way. And the one thing I really got to give Andor is that it is extremely cinematic looking. Literally looks like it came out of the movie theater, or that it was meant to be in the theaters at times. That's how well the production was, how much, revenue was poured into the budget of the show. It just makes a lot of sense to move forward with ideas like that to make the shows look rich in material. So that's what John and Dave are going to be doing. Every show after Mando 3, not saying that these shows look bad, like Mando 2 and 1, but just saying anything beyond Mando 3 is going to have a real movie look to it, because they're going to be upping the budget. Now that John and Dave have control over that, they're really going to be upping the budget and making sure that Disney's going to get their money back by boosting ratings and getting more Disney Plus subscriptions. And they're going to make sure of that in several ways. And we've discussed about all of this before in the past too. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.